Alright, it's time for another installment of the Harry Thomas Show Week in Review. Today is May 27th, 2009. The website is located at harrythomas.info. That's where you can find everything that I talk about on today's show or any show. I want to thank everyone who's kept me in their thoughts and prayers during my recent illnesses. I've got a whole lot of stuff to cover. I've got stuff coming up on the New York terror plot exposed, Obama's torturous police state, Ron Paul and Jesse Ventura condemn torture, new internet crimes, Audit, the Fed, Homeland, Gestapo, the new Snitch society, gun control, Big Brother, new wars, Bilderburg Updates, a whole lot more. Jam-packed information. I want to make some announcements about the website. You can find a link to updates that I make on Twitter, right at harrythomas.info on the front page. And this here is a neat little tool where I found that I can update the front page of the website by just going to the Twitter, and I highly suggest that you check that out. I've got links up to MySpace and my yearbook, where a lot of you have found the show through my yearbook and the 13 accounts that are over there. I've been updating the YouTube channel, Harry Thomas Info, very frequently. We are stepping up the info war. I've got some updates in the Sex Rings Exposed, Senator Schaefer. She was on a syndicated radio show last week actually, and a lot of very good information about CPS being involved in child trafficking rings. I mean, this is serious stuff. I mean, a lot of people say, oh, that's conspiracy theory stuff. It's not a theory if you can prove it. You understand what I'm saying? And everything that I talk about is documented 100%. I've got new links up to some global warming information. And I know I've been meaning to be able to do a special report on global warming, and you know, there's just so much to do and so many projects to do. I haven't been able to get to it yet, and in fact I have a link to the Great Global Warming Swindle right there on the front page at harrythomas.info, and really that is the definitive documentary on exactly what is going on with this global warming and the push for control through it. And in fact, I've also got up Mark Morano. He covered the topic of global warming, fact or fiction. You can check that out for yourself. I got updates on the Baxter Labs and a whole bunch of stuff. I've also updated the documents section, and I've got a whole bunch of information that I've been adding there, including survival guides. I'm going to be putting up a bunch of them because we are moving into where we must be prepared. We must be prepared for whatever is going down. I feel the climate is very, very fertile right now for another act of terror, probably government sponsored again, just like the others were. There's a huge push on gun control, attacking the First Amendment, and expansions of bureaucracies through this new administration. And one of the documents I do have up in the document section at harrythomas.info is the Environmental Protection Agency smoking gun on the CO2 debate. That's up for review. In fact, it was covered by WorldNet Daily on May 13, 2009. Smoking gun leaves holes in the CO2 debate. The EPA criticized for findings based on politics, not science. A White House memo has created a firestorm after it criticized the Environmental Protection Agency's classification of greenhouse gas as a public health threat and warned that regulation of CO2 will result in serious economic consequences for businesses and the economy. Now, like I said, I have this document up. It was also covered on the Glenn Beck show. This is what was said.
Life, as we know it, will no longer exist in 20 years. The air will be toxic with carbon dioxide. Mountains will slide into the oceans. California and Florida underwater. Who? Who could save the planet from its peril? Al Gore's behind me now, isn't he? His rallying cry has alerted the world to the dangers of climate change with his inconvenient truth. But as it turns out, the truth that's inconvenient is don't look like any of this stuff is based on, science. It's all on politics. All this week, we're doing inconvenient segments. Taking a look. Wow, it's a big head of mine, isn't it? And why am I eating the state of California? Taking a look. Oh, yeah, California. You know why. Like the tactics used by the EPA. Turns out their recent finding that CO2 is a hazard to your health. It may not be so dangerous after all. Our next guest says he has a smoking gun to prove the point. Senator from Wyoming, John Barrasso.
Because you absolutely have an environmental protection agency that is playing politics over science and over our economy.
Okay.
So I think the Environmental Protection Agency was way off base by saying they're going to call carbon dioxide a pollutant and then try to regulate it. What they're really trying to do, Glenn, is use this as a club to force cap and trade taxes.
Any idea on how to stop it?
Well, yeah, by exposing them in the committee like I did yesterday with that smoking gun memo and saying, hey, look, the science isn't behind you. You're making these claims. This memo goes so far as it says if you're going to call that a pollutant, well, then you ought to call electromagnetic waves and noise a pollutant and maybe regulate that too.
They do. It's in New York. They do. Okay, Senator, thank you so much. And by the way, just so you know, because I know this show has won so many science awards. Sometimes we get talking about highfalutin science, things like this, and people are like, what are you talking about? So let me just break it down. Carbon dioxide is basically this. Look how much pollution I just put out.
And this is really serious stuff. And this article goes on and says that Obama is playing with political dynamite. Once the EPA finalizes the endangerment finding, the stage is set for a flood of litigation to impose draconian Clean Air Act controls on the economy, he said. Similarly, litigation groups will demand that the administration use the Endangered Species Act to stop greenhouse gas emissions. It will all happen on Obama's watch, and he will take all the blame. Republicans will be quick to exploit the political backlash. For the sake of the country and his own political legacy, President Obama should introduce legislation to preclude regulation of greenhouse gases under existing environmental statutes. Now, this WorldNet Daily, they tend to fall into the left-right paradigm, the false left-right paradigm. See, what I try to point out to people is the Republicans and the Democrats in today's political climate are really owned by all the same special interests. And them interests are ruled by think tanks such as the Council on Foreign Relations, the Trilateral Commission, and the Bilderberg Group, which I will be covering near the end of the show. I've got all kinds of updates on them and what them characters are doing to set up global government. And that's really what this show is all about, is exposing and documenting the pieces of the puzzle that are leading up to global domination, global control, and the loss of United States sovereignty, the loss of our Constitution and our way of life. And this is some serious stuff because, they're admitting that the science really isn't behind global warming, and they're using it for political gain and to increase control over the populations, not just here in the United States, but all over the world. And I really highly suggest that you get to the front page of the website and watch that interview of Mark Morano, because he really does lay it out. And the documentary Great Global Warming Swindle is really very well done, and the definitive, like I said, documentary on global warming. Now, the London Times wrote Tuesday, May 26, 2009, government to change diets and lifestyles to fight global warming. Give up the lamb roast, save the planet. Government advisors are developing menus to combat climate change by cutting out high-carbon foods such as meat from sheep, whose burping poses a serious threat to the environment. And I just want to point out that these environmental agencies and environmental groups have all been co-opted by big business and big government.